Part 3. 16. However, all 5 levels mentioned above are levels of the intellectual soul, which is called the natural vivifying soul, in that it too must agree and acknowledge with acknowledgement and excitement of the mind and heart, and ultimately include the intent and simple desire, etc. Nonetheless, this is all called one who serves God with his body, rather than one who serves God with his soul. This is because, in and of itself, the divine soul is literally a divine power. All of its 5 levels, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechidah, are all in a state of divine rather than physical excitement literally, except that it is invested in the physical brain and heart so that its illumination and the spreading forth of its influence likewise come into the physical brain and heart in an aspect of 5 levels too. The lowest level is that the heart senses the divine excitement of the soul, as mentioned above. To explain this, we must first have a proper understanding into the matter of the divine excitement of the soul in a general way, as mentioned above concerning the general categories between actual divine excitement and the excitement of the life of the flesh. This is because divine excitement is the principal aim and true basis for true divine inspiration, which is the ultimate goal in contemplating the words of the living God. This is the above-mentioned matter of adhesion, which is called essential life, as in the verse, "You who adhere to Hashem your God are all alive today." This is also the meaning of the verse, "For he is your life," etc. 17. Now, this statement needs to be explained and clarified. We observe an astonishing phenomenon in the matter of the listening ear of the human intellect in regard to the words of the living God. That is, Chassidus causes great intellectual excitement. Now, it cannot be said that this is because the concepts of this subject are deeper than concepts of other subjects, for there are other deep concepts of greater breadth. We further observe empirically that one person's intellect will become very excited when he hears Chassidus, whereas another will not become excited at all, similar to what was explained above on the matter of listening from afar, in which the matter does not at all affect him, only that he accepts it as something true, as mentioned above. He barely hears. At first glance, we could attribute this to proficiency in the service of the heart. This one serves with proficiency, while the other does not. However, this is not the case, because a person could be God-fearing and pure in his service with all his heart, but in this he has no talent to listen at all. All this is known and fully tested. This being the case, we can only say that this comes from the potentiality of the soul itself, that it possesses divine potential, and that when it is activated, it is defined as divine excitement. That is, this is caused solely due to the godliness of the soul. Therefore, when he hears an aspect of godliness, the godly soul will become excited with divine excitement solely because of the source it was hewn from. However, in this there are separate levels. There are those who are only from the aspect of nefesh. Such a person will therefore not become as excited as someone from the aspect of ruach, who becomes more excited, and so on. 18. However, we must first understand the fundamental differences between divine excitement that stems from the divine soul and the excitement of the intellectual, natural soul in the brain and heart. At first glance, what difference is there here? Now, in short, the explanation is as follows. In regard to the divine soul's excitement about godliness, though the person becomes excited through comprehension and the like, nonetheless, it all is an actual aspect of godliness, including the comprehension itself. After all, it is actual godly comprehension. On the other hand, the comprehension of the intellect of the natural soul cannot be compared to this at all. For though when the natural soul becomes excited with intellectual comprehension, the essential thing is also only the godliness within the comprehension, because he would not become excited by comprehending a different concept unrelated to godliness. Nonetheless, this is a comprehension from the garment of Noga that conceals the essential divine illumination. This is because the place from which this natural soul was hewn, including its 10 powers, desire, intellect, emotions, thought, speech, and action, in essence, is all from the aspect of the garment of Noga, which is a composite of good and evil, etc. This is in accordance to the well-known statement of our sages of blessed memory that there are three partners in the birth of a child. The father and mother draw down the natural soul, such as human emotions and intellect, etc., whereas the Holy One, blessed be He, contributes the divine soul, as in the verse, "You blew it into me," etc. This is in accordance to the statement in Eitz Chaim that the divine soul, in and of itself, does not need repair because it is from the world of repair, Olam HaTikun, that is, from the world of Atzilut. Even in the Nefesh of Asiya, a glimmer from the external vessels of Zer Anpin radiates there. As known, the 30 vessels of Zer Anpin become Nefesh, Ruach and Neshama of the worlds of Beriah, Yetzirah and Asiya, etc. Therefore, even in an unlearned Jew, who only possesses a Nefesh of Asiya, a glimmer of the aspect of Atzilut is present there. However, it is only called Atzilut of Asiya, etc. The divine soul descended into the natural soul for the sole purpose of clarifying the garments of Noga which were drawn down by the father and mother. This is the foundation of service of Hashem in this world through fulfilling Torah and mitzvot, commandments, with love and fear of Him. This is to say that it all is contingent on the excitement of the natural soul as mentioned above in regard to the particular categories of its 5 levels, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya and Yechidah, etc. However, the divine soul in and of itself, in the place from which it was hewn, that is, in the aspect of Atzilut of Beriah, Yetzirah and Asiya, is not in need of repair. Now we need to understand all this. For does not the divine soul also become excited with desire, intellect and emotions? This being the case, what essentially is the difference between the excitement of the divine soul when it comprehends godliness and the excitement of the natural soul when it comprehends godliness? Certainly in both of them, the excitement is only from the godly aspect within the comprehension or the emotions, etc. 19. Now, what the excitement of the divine soul is when its comprehension is invested within the comprehension of the natural soul may be understood from the following example. We find that the souls in the Garden of Eden delight from the radiance of God's indwelling presence there. This is so even though the souls there are invested in the garment of Noga. Nonetheless, this is after Noga has become purified. This is called pure garments, and is from the Noga of the Chashmal of Beriah or Yetzirah, etc. The soul's 10 powers, desire and pleasure, intellect and emotions, etc., are included there too. Certainly the illumination of comprehension and delight in the divine radiance itself that the divine soul perceives in the Garden of Eden comes about because of the revelation of the divine light within the divine soul, as it is in and of itself, unfettered by any concealment or diminishment at all. This being the case, this certainly is an actual aspect of godliness, only that it radiates through the medium of comprehension of the divine. This comprehension of the divine is totally devoid of any awareness of self-being, and is rather an aspect of divine non-awareness of self, albeit it is still considered to be comprehension, similar to the comprehension of godliness that the soul experiences here in the physical world, while it is still invested within the physical comprehension of the natural soul. Its pleasure too is divine pleasure, devoid of any awareness of self-being, but rather only spiritual godly pleasure, literally. This being the case, the excitement of the divine comprehension is considered to be divine excitement in an actual aspect of godliness. The same holds true of the excitement of pleasure. It is excitement of divine pleasure. A well-known example of this is the difference between physical pleasure, such as the pleasure in wealth or food, compared to the pleasure of honor, which is more ethereal. This is why people are willing to give up all manner of physical pleasure for honor. Likewise, the pleasure in honor may be considered physical compared to the divine pleasure in the comprehension of godliness of the soul while it is in the body. Furthermore, this pleasure too may be regarded as being physical compared to the pleasure of the soul as it is in the Garden of Eden. This analogy holds true of the comprehension of the divine as well, etc. In like manner, there are 10 powers of the soul as it delights in the divine radiance of the Garden of Eden. godly desire, godly intellect, godly emotions, etc., all in an aspect of godly non-awareness of self-being. Since these soul powers exist from the divine non-being of the divine soul, like a spark from the flame, and it itself is literally a part of God, therefore it can delight from the radiance of Hashem's indwelling presence, the Shekhinah. This is in accordance to what is written elsewhere, I am unified in him, etc., in the aspect of the Yechidah of the divine soul, etc. Through this example, we can also understand the matter of the descent of the godly neshama of Bria, or the ruach of Yetzirah, etc., into the garment of the natural soul within the physical body. In that, even in this low state, it is still not cut off from its potential and the source from where it was hewn, which is called the tselem, or the mazlah, as in the matter of the verse, only in the image of Hashem does a man walk, etc., as known. In a person who possesses a ruach of Yetzirah, in this aspect of ruach, as it is invested in the body, there radiates a glimmer of its root in the ruach of Yetzirah, as it exists in the Garden of Eden of Yetzirah, etc. The same principle holds true of the neshama of Bria, or the nefesh of Asiyah. In summary, according to this we understand that even when the divine soul is invested within the natural soul, there is a glimmer of similarity to how it expresses the radiance of the indwelling presence of Hashem in the Garden of Eden. This is in a manner of the divine excitement of its desire, intellect and emotions, in that it too is an aspect of godliness literally. This is because the divine soul is called a part of God even once it has had such a great descent. The explanation of the matter is that its divine light is not as concealed and hidden as it is in the soul of Noga. This is because, in essence, Noga is the aspect of a separate garment. It is like an illumination of light as it radiates through a filter or the like. Though it too radiates light, nonetheless, it is not the original light itself. Rather, it is a secondary, acquired light, because it only receives from the essential light by means of the filter. Similarly, this is how it is above in the spiritual realm in regard to the aspect of the garment of the chashmal of Noga as known. On the other hand, in its spiritual root, the divine soul receives from the essential divine light without concealment and without the filter of a garment. The only reason every soul in the Garden of Eden has a garment from Noga is so that it will not be obliterated out of existence by the overpowering radiance of Hashem's presence, etc. Likewise, even when it is invested in the natural soul which acts as its garment, this causes no concealment or hiddenness in the divine soul at all. This being the case, there is no change in the manner of the excitement of its powers. They all remain as godly excitement, literally, to which the excitement of the powers of the natural soul are not comparable at all, as will be explained. This is because the divine soul is essentially different from the natural soul. It is only grasped by it solely in a manner of being grasped and enveloped as known. 20. We now need to understand the difference between the excitement of the divine soul within the comprehension that the natural soul comprehends and the excitement of the natural soul itself, etc. It was explained above in regard to the intellectual comprehension of the natural soul into a godly matter that someone hears from another, that as of yet he does not at all become excited, etc. Only afterwards, through effort, he may become excited from the summary, etc. The very fact that a minute or two transpired in which he did not become excited from the comprehension itself indicates that the godliness in this comprehension is very hidden in it. He therefore only possesses the matter of hearing the concept in and of itself without it being related to him, because the divine light in this comprehension is distant from him. This is so much so that specifically with effort a tiny glimmer of it may radiate to him. Moreover, this glimmer is only an abbreviation and distillation of the concept, in that his excitement is merely an acknowledgement as mentioned above. Moreover, the essential light is distant here, since the excitement comes in the form of a therefore, as mentioned above. even if he becomes excited in thought from the comprehension itself, such as the above-mentioned good thought, and even higher than this, the above-mentioned intention itself, which is called the intellectual fear and love of the natural soul, which is an excitement that results from the essence, rather than what is called the therefore, in which comprehension without excitement has already subsided, as mentioned above, but immediately when he comprehends the concept itself, not only does he become excited, but the excitement is not at all separate from that which is being comprehended, etc. All of which indicate that godliness is not so hidden in this comprehension. Nonetheless, it all is in an aspect of godliness hidden within the garment of Noga, specifically within the comprehension of the Bina of this soul of Noga, etc. This is in no way comparable to the aspect of the essential divine illumination that radiates in the Bina and comprehension of the divine soul invested in the comprehension of the natural soul. This is because it has a glimmer of the essential divine light of the comprehension of Bina of the divine soul as it delights in the essential divine radiance in the Garden of Eden without any filter or concealment at all, as mentioned above. Because of this, the excitement in this comprehension of the divine soul is actually also called by the term divine excitement, rather than the excitement of something separate which is other than godly, such as the excitement of the natural soul when it comprehends. 21. Now we must first preface with an astonishing observable phenomenon. When two people hear a specific matter on the topic of godliness, there are different types of excitement that take place in the divine soul when the natural soul comprehends it. One person may have the talent of listening and be moved by the comprehension itself that he understands due to the explanations of the concept itself. This is to say that he is moved to excitement because of the vast explanation of the many components of the topic, explanations that are very rational and in accordance to human intellect, so much so that they are grasped and assimilated by his mind very well. Here, his excitement essentially only comes from the explanation. On the other hand, the other person may be immediately moved to excitement by the godliness in the concept. Here, the talent is greater, because the entire explanation is included in it so much so that he can anticipate the whole vast explanation by himself. This is because he is immediately moved by the distillation of the godliness in the concept, thus bringing about an automatic understanding of the vast explanation with immeasurably greater length, breadth, and depth. However, there is a level that is very inferior in this regard. This is when a person is only moved to excitement by the so-called spirituality of the concept, but in truth it is only a delusion from the power of imagination in the understanding of his soul. This is far lower than comprehension and is the cause of the potential to have false imaginations. In other words, it is either because of confusion of the mind or because of the overheating of the passions of the blood, until a person can lead himself very much astray, exchanging light for darkness and darkness for light, turning truth on its head and confusing and mixing truth and false with each other. This error is very common amongst the members of our Chassidic brotherhood. They imagine this to be the above-mentioned divine excitement that stems from the explanation of the concept being comprehended, which is higher than the comprehension itself. However, in reality, the distance between the two is like the distance between one extreme and the other. Like the difference between day and night, literally, this is sufficient for those of understanding. The indicator of excitement of the godliness of the concept is that he will have great discernment into the distillation and most inner depth of the concept being comprehended, which arises from all the details of the explanation through analogy or the like. Specifically, from this, he will arrive at an aspect of length, breadth, and depth, and will be capable of understanding one thing from another with a tremendous expansion of the concept, many times greater than the words of explanation that he heard or saw written. Such is not the case with someone who only has what he intellectually grasps of what he heard or saw written. In him it all remains as it was. Moreover, these concepts remain as raw material without form, and over time they slowly recede and become distant to him, until they totally dissipate, and all that remains of them is just the general idea minus its essential core. On the contrary, all that remains is only the external aspect. In such a case, even if he remembers the general idea because he reviews and accustoms himself to it daily, nonetheless it will literally be devoid of any vitality of divine light illuminating his soul through its comprehension. Rather, it will be similar to a person who remembers matters of this world. This is because he never felt the illumination of divine light in his soul from this comprehension. There is also an additional error common in the Chassidic brotherhood. There are those who immediately become excited over the distillation of the essence within the comprehension of the explanation, and they imagine that this is from the godliness of the comprehension. Such a person will therefore not tolerate any further explanation and will have no desire for it. Many people fall into this false imagination, when in reality this is not at all the result of comprehending godliness. Rather, it is because of the nature embedded in the divine soul of Jews, natural piety, that without any reason or knowledge they become excited about godliness. This is the smallest aspect of the nefesh, which is the lowest level of the nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and yechidah of the divine soul, as will be explained. However, the above-mentioned talent to feel the godliness in the comprehension is the Chassidic talent of that comprehension, which is its hayuli aspect, the distilled essence. It is similar to a liquid made of many ingredients which are distilled into an essence that many drinks may be poured from, as known. This is called simple matter, or hayuli matter, as known. This is sufficient for those of understanding. 22. Now, from the example of the distance between the excitement in the explanation as compared to the excitement in the godliness of the explanation mentioned above, we may now understand that even greater distance there is between the divine excitement in the comprehension of the natural soul as compared to the divine excitement in the comprehension of the divine soul. The excitement in the comprehension of the natural soul is like a mere garment that hides and conceals the excitement in the comprehension of the divine soul. Likewise, the desire and pleasure of the natural soul are garments for the desire and pleasure of the divine soul. An example of this is the difference between physical pleasure and comprehension compared to the spiritual pleasure and comprehension in the Garden of Eden, as mentioned above. We find that because of its essential preciousness, certainly even the lowest level of the divine soul, which constitutes its most diminished aspect and is the excitement of the essence of the divine soul in an aspect of action, is drawn after godliness without reason, similar to the Exodus from Egypt, about which it is written, that you followed me in the desert, like a child who follows his father, etc. This lower level of the divine soul still is from the aspect of the essence of the soul of the Jew, and is far greater than even the highest level of the natural soul. In other words, it is even higher than the simple will, which is called intention, mentioned above. Even so, the 10 powers of the divine soul are invested within the 10 powers of the natural soul. The pleasure of the divine soul is invested in the pleasure of the natural soul. Its desire is invested in the desire of the natural soul. Its intellect in the intellect, and its emotions in the emotions, etc., as known. Accordingly, the bina of the divine soul is invested within the comprehension of the natural soul itself, which is its bina. This being the case, the divine excitement in the understanding and comprehension of the divine soul is also invested within the divine excitement in the understanding and comprehension of the natural soul. This principle holds true all the way to its root within its comprehension and understanding, as it is when it delights in the illumination of the indwelling presence of God in the Garden of Eden. This is as mentioned above concerning the matter of only in the image of God does a man walk. As known, this refers to the soul as it is invested within the body. The difference is like the difference between essential light and filtered light as explained above, or like the above-mentioned excitement of the hayuli aspect that is hidden within the excitement of the explanation. This is sufficient for those of understanding. 23. However, we still need to understand what, in essence, is this divine excitement in the comprehension of the divine soul, which is qualitatively different than the excitement in the comprehension of the natural soul as mentioned above. To understand this, we must first preface with the general principle of what the excitement of the divine soul is. Since it is literally a part of God, therefore we are literally forced to say that the excitement of the divine soul is totally different than what the excitement of the natural soul is. This is solely due to the fact that its excitement is an aspect of the excitement of the divine soul rather than an excitement that is separate from the divine soul, similar to the verse, "All my bones declare Hashem, who can be compared to you?" This is because, to the divine soul, godliness is natural and essential, since it is from there that the essence of what it is was derived. Divine excitement rather than human excitement, the soul becomes excited rather than the body. This is called hearing, meaning that the soul hears. Generally, it is called hearing with the soul or the like. This may be compared to the excitement of the angels called the sons of God. Certainly, their excitement is nothing but divine excitement. Just as the natural soul becomes excited about physical matters in an essential and natural manner, because that is its source, so too the divine soul becomes excited about matters of godliness in all their details in an essential and natural manner. We are compelled to say this because it would certainly make no logical sense to think that the divine soul could get excited about matters involving physical lusts, such as the desire for food or the like. This is because it is totally unrelated to bodily lusts. In like manner, the natural physical soul is far removed from getting excited about matters of godliness except by way of very great effort. Nevertheless, as mentioned before, it is possible for it to become excited about these things. This is because Noga, which is its source, also has a route to receive sustenance from the godly power that brings everything into being. However, the sustenance comes there in an extremely hidden manner, as mentioned above. This being the case, it is certain that how the divine soul becomes excited is totally removed from the physical manner that the natural soul becomes excited, except that the divine soul is invested and enveloped within it in a way of investment in a garment only, as mentioned above. Though we observe the excitement of the divine soul simultaneous to the natural soul's excitement about matters of godliness, whether in thought, acknowledgement, and resolve, or love, fear, intention, desire, and pleasure, nevertheless the essential difference between them is that the excitement of the natural soul is totally separate from the essence of godliness. On the other hand, the excitement of the divine soul in matters of godliness is essential to it. This is because the essence of godliness is rooted and embedded in it, literally, as its nature. Since the divine soul also includes the levels of nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and yichida, and is invested in the nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and yichida of the natural soul, in other words, it generally possesses desire, intellect, emotions, and the three garments of thought, speech, and action, etc. Therefore, though it experiences divine excitement in an essential manner, nonetheless, it undergoes various levels of diminished or expanded consciousness, similar to the observable division of levels in the natural soul in its desire for closeness to Hashem mentioned above. However, generally speaking, the whole gamut of divine excitement stemming from the divine soul is called those who serve Hashem with their souls, rather than those who serve Hashem with their body. About this it states, "You who adhere to Hashem are alive," etc., meaning that they adhere automatically in an essential and natural manner, as was explained above concerning the general distinction between divine excitement and physical excitement. Therefore, even nefesh of asiyah of the divine soul contains a glimmer of the yichida of the divine soul, which is the aspect of its essential bond to Hashem. This is in accordance to the statement of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, "We are bound together with one bond," etc. Now his statement refers to the highest level of attachment. However, there are many categories of levels in this. The divine soul becomes invested on these levels according to the condition of its garment, which is the natural soul, etc.